The day a cop punched me in the face on my own sidewalk, I decided not to block it. I watched his fist come in like it was happening in slow motion, and I just let it land. Blood hitting my nice white shirt like somebody had thrown red paint at my chest, and he really thought in that moment that he'd just put some random black guy in his place. What he didn't know, what nobody in that neighborhood knew, was that I'm a 4-star general with a direct line to people who can put an entire police department under a microscope before their coffee gets cold. And that punch he was so proud of ended up costing him his badge, his freedom, and his little kingdom of fear. Yeah, that happened. So let me take you back to that afternoon, because the crazy part is when I walked out of my building that day, I wasn't thinking about justice or lawsuits or federal code. I was just a tired man who had seen too many deserts and too many flag-covered coffins trying to take a quiet walk and remember what it feels like to just be a person and not a rank. I live in this place called Summit Crest, one of those hilltop condo towers with glass railings, neat hedges, and a lobby that smells like citrus and money, you know the type. Marble floors, soft music, security guards who whisper instead of talk, people who complain if the water in the infinity pool is 1 degree off. I had just gotten back stateside from a long deployment, 18 months of sand noise and hard decisions, and the Pentagon suits told me I needed to decompress, so they parked me in this pretty little building on a hill and told me to rest. I put on a white shirt, light pants, soft shoes, and for the first time in a long time, I let myself feel almost invisible. That feeling lasted, 3 blocks. Maybe the sun was out, the air was soft, and I was thinking about nothing heavy for once. Then I heard that engine. Not the nice, quiet sound you get from a new cruiser, but a rattle. Like the car had hit too many curbs and nobody cared enough to fix it. You know, exactly the sound, I mean. The patrol car rolled through the fancy stone gate that says Summit Crest, like it owns the hill, slow, like it's sniffing for trouble, even though the building already pays for its own security and there's nothing going on, but dog walkers and people arguing on Bluetooth about stock prices. It creeps down the street and stops just ahead of me. Window slides down and this big hand comes out holding a half-melted iced coffee. Without even looking at me, the driver flicks the cup toward the curb. It hits the stone, explodes cold brown sludge all over the perfect grass and the clean sidewalk. Then the hand disappears and the window starts rolling back up like I'm supposed to pretend I didn't see any of that. Now listen, in the grand picture of what I've seen, a spilled coffee is nothing. I've seen cities burning, mothers screaming over sons. They're never getting back. I've written letters home to families that never met me but hate my name forever because it's at the bottom of that envelope. But soldiers like me, we're built on one thing: discipline. You do the small things right, or one day the big things fall apart. So I walked over, bent down, picked up that cup coffee dripping between my fingers, and I walked right up and tapped on the cruiser window like a neighbor. Not a problem. Just a man saying, "Hey, you dropped something." The driver. Officer Brent Malley drops his eyes from my shoes to my shirt to my face. You can see the math happening behind his eyes. Black, expensive shirt, wrong neighborhood, must be trouble. And he gives this little laugh for his rookie partner like I'm some kind of joke. "You got a problem, pal," he says, voice already sharpened like he's expecting a fight. I hold up the dripping cup. Keep my tone calm, the way you talk when your words usually move units, not just air, and I say, "You dropped this, officer. Figured you might want to put it in a trash can instead of on someone's lawn." He looks at me like I just insulted his ancestors, turns to the rookie, kid named Nolan, still sitting too straight, still thinking the academy taught him something about the world, and says loud enough for the whole street, "You see this? We got ourselves a volunteer janitor community service in a silk shirt." Then he spits his gum into a wrapper and flicks that out the window too. It lands near my shoe. Behind me I hear a door open. The lady from 19B comes out with her tiny dog and big phone camera already up a couple across the street, stops with their grocery bags. People on that hill love a show as long as it's not about them. You know what I mean. I could have walked away, that would have been the smart thing. Avoid trouble, keep my day quiet. But there's this line inside me I can't cross. You wear a badge, you don't get to treat the world like your trash can. So I say, still calm. "This is a residential property, officer. Littering's a violation of city code and it's disrespectful. I'm just asking you to pick up what you threw." That's when the air changes. He shuts off the smirk like a switch, throws his door open hard enough that it almost hits my knees, gets out, adjusts his belt so his hand is close to his taser and his gun, and steps right into my space, breath smelling like cheap coffee and cheaper pride. "No, see," he says loud, playing to the neighbors. "This building is for residents. People who belong here, lawyers, donors, not people like you and I don't take orders from some trespasser who crawled up the hill to steal packages. That phrase, people like you, I've been hearing versions of it since I was 15 years old and face down on hot asphalt with a cop's knee in my back, because I matched a description. I heard it in fancier words in embassy hallways, when some kid in a suit looked at my skin and assumed I was there to park cars, not brief ambassadors. I thought I was past letting it get to me. But the truth is, it always stings. You just learn to put the sting somewhere useful. I stand a little straighter without thinking. Heels line up, shoulders settle, years of training snapping into place, and I say very clearly, I live here. Summit Crest, Unit 19F moved in 3 days ago. The concierge will confirm if you'd like to call. He snaps his fingers in my face like he's calling a dog ID driver's license now. I don't carry my wallet when I'm walking on my own property, I tell him, and you have no reasonable suspicion of a crime, but the front desk has my file you can check. He raises his voice even higher, refusing to ID disorderly conduct, harassing an officer in the execution of his duties, throwing legal phrases around like confetti, hoping something sticks. I say I asked you to pick up your trash that's called being a decent human being, and I hold the cup out one more time, arm steady. Take it. He slaps it out of my hand, sends cold coffee splashing all over my pants, dripping into my shoes, and for a split second I see red. Not just the coffee, but the memory of every time somebody with a uniform thought I should be grateful they didn't go further. I know exactly how to put this man on the ground without leaving a mark. I can't justify my body remembers, before my brain even catches up, but I also see those phones, see the way the rookie is already nervous, and something inside me just clicks. This isn't a sidewalk anymore, this is a battlefield, just a different kind. So when he yells back up and cocks his fist, I make a decision that doesn't feel heroic at all in that moment. It feels stupid and humiliating and hot. I decide not to raise my hands. His punch is ugly, all shoulder and ego. I watch it swing in. I feel my jaw explode with pain. My lips split. I taste blood and lint. I feel my shirt tear. As my head snaps sideways, the hill goes quiet. You could hear a leaf hit the ground, but I don't fall. I plant my feet, breathe once, and turn back to look him in the eye, blood running down my chin. The rookie looks like he wants to disappear. The neighbors have their phones up higher, and Mally is shaking out his hand, trying to keep the smug look on his face, even though it clearly hurt him too. You should have complied, he says like he just taught a lesson. I spit a thin red line into the grass, wipe my mouth with the back of my wrist, and I tell him very calmly, "Officer, you just committed assault on a resident on his own property, and you have no idea who you just put your hands on." He laughs. "You're nobody in a fancy shirt," and barks at the rookie. Cuff him resisting assault, all of it. I hold my hands out, wrists together. I look at Nolan. Kid's hands are shaking, and I actually say, "Do it. Follow your orders. Make sure your body cam is on, because if I'm going to let them write their story, I'm going to make damn sure we're recording mine too." The ride to the station is this weird mix of adrenaline and quiet. I'm in the back of the car, plastic seat digging into my spine, cuffs too tight on purpose, jaw throbbing, shirt sticking to my skin and up front. Mally is running his mouth like he just made varsity, calling me a squatter, a thief, saying guys like him come up the hill to test the fences. Nolan keeps glancing at me in the mirror like he's trying to square what he saw with what he was told to write in the report. After a while, I say low and steady, "Officer Nolan, note the time I have not been read my rights. I was assaulted prior to arrest, and if this continues, you're watching your partner end his career and maybe yours, and you can see him swallow hard." They book me at 4th District Place, smells like coffee sweat and old bleach. The desk sergeant barely looks up. Mally spins his story about the aggressive trespasser at Summit Crest, and I correct every lie out loud, first and last name, unit number, peaceful request, about litter, unprovoked, punch the whole thing. I say it slowly, so every word hits the air and lands in somebody's conscience even if they pretend it doesn't. They strip, search me in a cold concrete room for officer safety. That's their phrase, not mine. And that's when the scars do more talking than I do. Shrapnel along my ribs, bullet wound on my thigh, burn down my shoulder, the kind of marks you don't get from bar fights. And for a moment, even Mally runs out of jokes. He just stares and mutters, "Put your clothes back on." At the desk, I ask for my phone call. They point me to this greasy old wall phone like it's a joke, and I dial a number that doesn't belong to any lawyer in this city. It rings once, and a calm voice says, "Defense Network Command." And just like that, my whole tone shifts. I'm not sir to them. I'm asset and command, so I give my code. Cole Damien J. Code. Black hostile domestic detention. Brookhaven Ridge 4th District Officer involved Mally Badge 3DU49 civil rights in progress. The voice on the other end goes clipped and cold. Code Black acknowledged. Do not escalate, maintain position. Overwatch is engaged and I hang up, knowing the battlefield just went from local to federal. They don't know it yet, of course. To them, I'm still nobody in a fancy shirt. So Carlin the lieutenant comes in with my ID in his hand, tries to play good cop, bad cop with himself, waves a paper at me, tells me if I sign and say I was drunk and erratic, they'll downgrade the charges. I look at the paper, draw a big X across it with his pen, slide it back and say, I'm not here to help you bury what you did, Lieutenant. Then I tap my watch and let him know very gently that it's recording audio and uploading it off-site, and the way his eyes twitch tells me he understands one thing clearly. He has lost control of the story. They stick me in solitary steel door, no window. They think that kind of darkness scares me. They don't know. I've tried to sleep through mortar fire. I lean my head back against the wall, taste the dry blood in my mouth, breathe and wait. I didn't see every detail of what happened upstairs in real time. I got that later from reports and footage, but I can tell you this much. The station lights flickered, computer screens glitched into red warnings when Detective Tasha Reed tried to run my ID just to be sure. The federal system slapped a classified banner across her monitor and started logging every keystroke. Then phones all over the building started ringing at once. Desk phones, private cells, even the dusty line nobody uses. And a flat, calm voice told her boss, "Release General Damien Cole immediately, or face escalation." They didn't listen. Of course, men like Carlin always think rules are for other people, so he ordered cameras shut off and servers rebooted, which really meant sending Mally to yank cables, and that's about when the air outside started to shake. A couple of choppers came in low over the parking lot, kicking up dust and old fast food wrappers. 3 black SUVs rolled through their gate like it was made of paper, swung into formation, and opened all their doors in sync, and a stack of federal agents and military investigators flowed into that lobby with one question: where is General Cole? By the time Tasha and Nolan opened my cell and that heavy door finally groaned open, I already knew they were here. You can hear that kind of arrival in your bones. She stood there in the doorway, looked at my face, at my shirt, and just said, "Sir," like the word weighed 10 pounds, now that she knew who I was. And I told her, "Detective, I'm walking out of this building under my own power, not dragged, and when I do, I want every second of that footage preserved because this is bigger than my jaw." We stepped into that hallway together. Soldiers at the far end snapped to attention when they saw me. Colonel Marks in front, we exchanged a quick salute. No drama, just acknowledgement. And in the lobby, with glass still on the floor from where the front doors had given up, we watched my morning play out on a giant screen from 4 different angles. The cup, the sidewalk, the punch, the booking desk, the server room where they tried to kill the cameras. Every joke, every lie, every people like you caught in full color time stamped with their own equipment. You ever watched a room full of people realize the walls are closing in on them? Not because someone lied about them, but because the truth finally has better lawyers than they do, you know what I mean? The bravado just drains right out of their faces. They cuffed Mally and Carlin right there in their own lobby, took their badges, their guns, their sense of safety, loaded up every hard drive and box of miscellaneous evidence they'd kept in storage. Then the feds went digging, and that's when we found out my punch wasn't the first time that station had gone off script. It was just the first time the target had enough leverage to pull their whole file cabinet into the light. Months later, I stood in a community center gym, one of those big echoey rooms that smells like floor polish and popcorn. Summit Crest folks in pressed clothes on one side, Valley folks in work boots and hoodies on the other, and everybody was staring at the same screen, that frozen frame of me standing there with blood on my shirt and Mally's fist in midair, and I told them I'm not here because my jaw still hurts. I'm here because every time a cop treats a black man like a suspect for existing, they rip at the flag I send people to die under, and then we started showing the other stuff. Traffic stops that always seemed to happen in the same few blocks, cash that vanished from evidence, complaints that got filed in drawers instead of systems names. Some of those folks in the cheap seats knew all too well. A guy stood up and said, voice shaking, he took my rent money last year, said it smelled like weed, and I could look him in the eye and say, "Your case is on my desk, you're getting that money back with interest." And you could feel something shift in that room, not forgiveness exactly, but maybe the first millimeter of trust. I didn't do all that alone, by the way. Tasha Reed put her career on the line to tell the truth, and she ended up wearing the Chiefs badge standing next to me at that same podium, explaining a new rule they made all their rookies learn. They call it the Cole rule. And it's simple. When you step out of that cruiser, you assume the person you're about to talk to could end your career with one phone call. Not because they actually can, but because that's the level of basic respect you owe a stranger. And when you're done, you remember your real character is measured by how you treat the ones who truly can't do a thing for you. In court, when the jury read guilty over and over, deprivation of rights under color of law, falsifying reports, obstruction, theft, Mally finally looked at me like he was seeing my face for the first time. Not the blood, not the shirt, just me. And he tried to shout an apology as the marshals took him away. If I'd known who you were, sir, I never would have. And I just nodded because that was the problem in one sentence right there. He thought respect is something you give to rank, not to people. A year after that day, I walked the same sidewalk in another white shirt. Not as a trophy, just because I like the way the sun feels on clean fabric. A new cruiser rolled past, paint not peeling this time. Community written on the side in big letters, and the young officer inside slowed down, smiled, and said, "Morning, sir. Beautiful day. No hand on his gun, no suspicion in his eyes. Just a small human moment that felt more radical than the helicopters." I sat on a bench later with Chief Reed at the line where the hill meets the valley, watched some kids play soccer on grass that used to be a hot zone for unnecessary stops. And she asked me, "Do you ever regret not blocking that punch?" And I told her the truth. My jaw remembers the weather now, and I won't pretend I like that. But if I'd flashed my credentials and shut him down in that driveway, he would have just waited for the next man who couldn't call the Pentagon, and he would have hit him instead. What I did that day wasn't about being a hero, it was about making sure there was a record somebody bigger than him had to answer to. So now I want to bring this to you because I'm just one person with one story, but I know a lot of you watching have your own. Maybe you've been on the wrong end of a badge or a title or a manager who thought they owned you instead of respecting you. Maybe you've seen someone get away with abusing their little bit of power because they were sure the person in front of them was nobody. Maybe that person was you. Tell me in the comments, was 5 years enough for a cop who did what he did? Would that sentence feel like justice? If it was your father or your brother on that sidewalk, do you think I did the right thing by taking that punch on purpose to expose the system? Or would you have fought back right there on the spot? I really want to know how you see it. If this hit something in you, if it made you angry or hopeful or both, tap like, hit subscribe, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and tell your story below. Because as long as there are people who confuse authority with license, we're going to keep talking about what happens when the truth finally hits back.